with the support for today's webinar. So to see so many of you here so promptly, some even earlier, is really a fantastic response. So thank you. This is our first, I guess, first webinar of a series of conversations we're hoping to have with our Australian Teaching Fellows. So again, thank you for your support for that. My name is Bron Burr, and obviously a member of the Australian Schools Plus team, and responsible for our knowledge sharing work. And I'm here today with my colleague Yvonne Sayo-Nkumbo, who has been supporting us from a technical and a communications perspective. So together we are your facilitators for the webinar. We aren't the stars of the show though. Obviously, Sarah Chapman from Townsville State High School in Queensland and Ashley Stewart from Newton Moore High School in just down near in Bunbury in Western Australia will be presenting for us today. So thank you to both of you. Before we do get going though, I would like to just take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners upon the land in which each of us are meeting today. Obviously, we are scattered across the country, and I believe that we may even have an international guest in our midst. So I would like to take this moment to acknowledge and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging of the lands upon which we all meet. As we know, the focus of today's webinar is about engaging girls in STEM education, and as I've already alluded to, will provide us with a wonderful opportunity to learn from and engage with both Sarah and Ashley in the research that they've been working on, particularly Sarah, her international research, and the work that they've been doing in their respective schools and with their professional communities. The Teaching Fellows, just a little bit of background, the Teaching Fellows are a group of leading educators that have been recognised as part of the Commonwealth Bank Teaching Awards, which is a partnership between the Commonwealth Bank and Australian Schools Plus. So it really is quite exciting to have both of these ladies with us. Thank you also for the questions that many of you sent through before today's webinar. It's been terrific. Again, your response was overwhelming, and we've got some really terrific questions to work with. Both Ashley and Sarah will address many of those in their presentations, and have been very generous in their time in actually preparing responses, including links to references and resources that we will summarise and circulate after the webinar. So again, call out to Ashley and Sarah for their support there. I'll go very quickly now to the agenda. You can see it up there on the screen. Quick introduction. We'll then flow into, I'll invite Sarah to kick off with the first presentation. And as I've said, she'll focus on her international research, including looking at benchmarks for successful STEM programs and targeting young people, and particularly girls, and encouraging their engagement in STEM. We'll then follow straight into Ashley's presentation, and you can see sort of the highlights of Ashley's presentation that we'll cover there. And then that will be followed with a Q&A session. As you'd appreciate, with so many of us online today, we thought the best approach would be to actually submit your questions via chat. And I think on the next slide, we might have some instructions there. Just clicking over, sorry. You can see there on the slide that's up on the screen at the moment, some very brief instructions on how to access that chat line. And as I say, if you have any questions, please submit them that way, and we will curate them at our end and then share them out with Ashley and Sarah on your behalf towards the end of the webinar. So I hope that makes sense. A little bit of housekeeping there. Two other items, I guess, of housekeeping before we do get going. Firstly, we will be recording the webinar this afternoon and this evening, depending on where you are in the country. and we will circulate that as well. And secondly, and I don't think we're tracking anyone if this is the case, but we would ask that you do mute your microphone and mute at your end, just to try and minimise any background noise during the webinar. I think we're good to go. I'm getting the thumbs up at this end. So look, that's my introduction, folks. Terrific to have you online, and I'll now like to get things rolling really and introduce, give you a little bit more background to Sarah. As I mentioned, Sarah Chapman is one of the 2019 Commonwealth Bank Teaching Award recipients and Teaching Fellows. She's one of 12 teachers which were recognised for their outstanding contribution to education this year through these particular awards. Sarah is Head of Science at Townsville State High School, and her passion and expertise is clearly in STEM education. And I suspect she's got many others as well, but that's what we're going to hear from today. As many of you know, Sarah is incredibly generous in how she shares and her knowledge and her experience. And any of you who follow her on Twitter would know that. Today, as I've mentioned, she'll share some of her outcomes of her international research that she co-authored with Dr. Rebecca Vivian, and also lessons and reflections from her own teaching. So on that note, I'm going to now hand over to Sarah, and leave you in her hands for the next 20 or so minutes, and she will present to you. Thank you. Sarah, over to you.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Townsville. You're all visiting me at the moment, which is a little bit exciting. I have to say I'm very honoured to be talking and sharing with you all this afternoon my passion, and I'm really, really excited about acknowledging the fact that we all work in an organisation, in a profession that is so dynamic and diverse and constantly changing, that being able to share our passion and also respond to changes in the way young people think and learn is so, so important. So it's lovely to connect with you all today. Just to clarify first up, my take on STEM is not just a set of subjects. I actually think of it in a similar way to the way Google has evolved. So originally it was thought that Google was a name. It was a name of a search engine, just like STEM, a set of names of science, technology, engineering and mathematics. However, Google is now a verb. You Google something, you do it. And it's the same in STEM. I'm a strong believer that it's actually a way of thinking and doing, not a set of subjects. And you can apply STEM, the way of thinking and doing, to any subject, even, mowing the lawn. So this afternoon, I hope that when you are thinking about STEM, you think about it in that way. And the importance of that is we need critical and creative thinkers to solve our future problems. So it's really, really important that we have STEM thinkers and doers. Now, this afternoon, I'm going to be talking to you about some key focus areas. And those key focus areas have been developed from my international research conducted from my Barbara Cale STEM Fellowship that I conducted in 2016. I actually got to travel to 5 countries around the world and visit prominent industries, businesses, government, schools, as well as extracurricular organisations, and see how they have captured STEM and made it a sustainable and successful program. Those 5 countries were Singapore, Finland, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, and New Zealand. And I visited approximately 35 organisations and spoke to about 85 people within those 5 weeks. And as well, with about 6 months research, put together a paper called Engaging the Future of STEM, which you'll see a link towards the end, and was also a part of the registration information. So the key focus areas of my presentation are firstly about understanding the STEM ecosystem. We're all a part of it, and we're actually connected right now as a part of that ecosystem, and the importance of each person and each stakeholder in that ecosystem. Also, the importance of embedding key strategies to engage girls authentically in STEM, not tokenistically, but authentically. And lastly, exploring roles and partnerships and empowering students, a little bit of a passion of mine. So firstly, this map, which I constructed as a part of the Engaging the Future of STEM report published by the federal government, is all about how we are connected. Now, teachers connect with their students, but we're also a big part of a larger ecosystem. We're actually right in the centre, and that might have been a bit of my doing because we are a very important part. But the importance of this ecosystem is also to understand what our role is, but also what we can do to connect with others. Now, a real reason of doing this is for us to understand what do we do well, who are we connected to well, but who have we not connected with? Where are our gaps? And realistically, to have a sustainable and successful program in STEM, these connections are important. So looking at this STEM ecosystem map, I encourage you in your own time, and you will get a copy of this presentation, and it's also in the report, to evaluate your place, but also your connections, in order to make sure that everyone has the most enriching experience, and it goes for then promoting a sustainable program. So how do we do it? How do we engage girls in STEM? Well, the report and the research, plus also being a teacher of 16 years, there are some ways that we can do it, but not one size fits all. So the strategies that were identified were effective messaging, girls-only opportunities, the involvement of families, and authentic STEM connections. Now, I'm not going to define these right now. I'm going to discuss them as I talk through some of the places that I visited on my fellowship, but also some of the practices that I actually have implemented at my school. So firstly, we're taking a journey to Tech Bridge. Tech Bridge is an organisation that's been running for 19 years in the United States of America. They really started as an extracurricular organisation and engaging with girls predominantly in minority groups, but found that there was little sustainability in engaging girls. So what did they do? They actually spoke to the girls and realised that for them to be able to engage long term, they needed their key influencers, their family, to be involved. So what they actually did was bring in families to the programs in order for parents to develop a better understanding. But it wasn't enough. They actually found also engaging experts wasn't always successful. And the girls gave feedback about the fact that the messaging for some of them, and I'm sure we've all been in a lecture with somebody that possibly didn't know how to communicate too successfully, doesn't reach the girls. So they actually vetoed every single expert that they had that would engage with girls, but also gave them training around unconscious bias, looking at how they could be a proper role model, but also ensured that their communication was enabling in order to connect girls with the possibility of them following that pathway. STEMETS, so we're jumping across the ditch to the United Kingdom, and STEMETS is an organisation in the United Kingdom that has been running for 6 years. Now, this organisation is an extracurricular organisation, so it's not something embedded in schools, but it is something that schools engage with. Now, when we're looking at this, it is a girls-only program. They basically inform their entire program linked to industry partnerships, which to me is so exciting because it makes what they're doing authentic and real for girls. Girls also want to contribute to society. So having industry set problems that they want solved validates what girls are doing and the contributions that they're making. They have mentors that are experts, but they also found some limitations in sustaining girls engaged in STEM. And again, it comes up, family involvement. And it's really, really been tried and tested through STEMettes that involving the family is so important in that lifelong journey. If parents don't understand what's actually happening or what STEM is, they're less likely to encourage their girl or child to actually engage with it. So bringing them along in the journey, ensuring that they're well communicated with is so, so important in order for them to support their child, and especially girls, because more than not, they will rely on a parent approval of their choices in life. We then go to the Inokis Group. Now, this organisation is based in Finland and has been operating for 4 years. Now, when I did my fellowship, this was a light bulb moment for me. And I really encourage you to look at the pictures of the slide that I have there, and I'm going to explain it. Now, a lot of technology teachers in particular are doing a lot of these things now, but for me, being predominantly science, it was something truly amazing that I just went, I've got it. I really understand. Now, creative arts is a part of the Finnish schooling system. So from beginning of school to the end of school, students engage with the creative arts. So it's a natural thing to be, creative and engage in those things. But what they have actually done is incorporated girls' interests with technology, not as an add-on, but to enhance their experience in things they are already interested in. So looking at that, if you look at the left-hand side, you've got 2 girls with their hands up in the air and 2 little robots on the side. I actually saw the video of this, and these 2 girls did a dance performance and programmed their robots to dance along. I was amazed because I couldn't in any way have joined in myself as a human being, and yet they'd programmed 2 robots to actually follow along. The top middle slide has a girl that looks like she's falling. She actually wants to be a comedian, and I'm sure she's probably on her way now. And she built a robot, programmed it to be a prop for her comedic play. You then have down in the bottom right corner some fabric, and what that fabric actually was programmed via conductive thread to change colour depending on the speed at which the girl performed and spun. And my absolute favourite, and I saved it to last because it's just so cool and I love dogs, so why wouldn't I save it till last? The bottom middle slide has a girl standing up and a little dog going over a bridge. Now, these 2 girls actually had written a play, and they wanted to perform this play, and part of the play had a dog in it. And they pleaded their teacher to actually bring their dog in from home. Now, why not? I'd love to bring my dog into school. But they weren't allowed for safety reasons. So rather than just changing their play, they made a little costume for a robot and programmed the robot and actually had a robotic dog as a part of their play. So instead of their hobbies just being isolated to a creative arts, they actually had it enhanced using technology. And I really think this is something Australia can harness, is using our interests. And another one which I've actually done since is linking in sports. So a goal counter, using technology to actually count how many goals. Student interest means buy-in, engagement, but also going the extra mile. And this is exemplified by the Inokis Group. We then go back to New Jersey in the United States, and this school certainly had in droves the X factor when it came to STEM. Now, their key part was partnerships, but also student empowerment through those partnerships. Now, I absolutely love this school. I could have easily made my home there, but I don't think I would have been too welcome in terms of not having a visa, etc. But this school was special. I got to talk to a lot of the students and see that every single student had a project, and that project was something that helped their community. Buy-in for girls, massive. I met Anna and Rachel, and they were in grade 10, and they were developing an app called Sunscreen. The reason for that is Anna's mum actually had a skin cancer, and she was really upset because her mum used to wear sunscreen in the morning but not reapply it. And over time, she got a skin cancer. And Anna said, this can't happen anymore. We need to know when we should reapply our sunscreen. So they actually engaged in advanced mathematics and coding, as well as working with a local industry to develop this app called Sunscreen that screams at you based on your GPS and the UV and the atmosphere and tells you when you should reapply your sunscreen. They felt empowered. They felt they were making a difference, and those girls did. And they went above and beyond their learning to do so. And I really think this speaks absolute volumes for how student agency, student empowerment, but partnerships as well, enable girls to go that extra mile. But I would say all students. Washington State was the next stop, and I stopped at Alexandria at Thomas Jefferson High School. Now, this is based in the United States, and this school is a public school. All the schools I visited were public schools. This school really blew my mind. They had a parents and citizens, so fundraising budget of $1 million a year. Now, that building in the top right-hand corner is a whole new science building purpose-built for the students there. An oceanography lab, a neuroscience lab, a quantum physics lab, and I can say I turned green with envy. But that being said, the resourcing thing, you brush that away because not all of us have $1 million a year to spend on things. It's talking to the students, the heart of the school. And the photo that I have there in the bottom right corner is with Brendan. Now, Brendan was the most articulate student I have ever met. And he wanted to go into medical engineering. He showed me around the school, but he talked about this program where for half a week, for an entire semester, so every week, for half of the week, he would go to a research lab and actually contribute in research. He actually was looking at the way they scan different brains, looking at that fatal brain cancer. And he actually co-wrote some papers with the researchers. He developed some ideas, but all of his research contributed to his grades. Brendan was a confident student, and I did my honours in brain injury research, so I hammered him with everything that I could think of, and he answered those questions without a blink. That wasn't just the most impressive thing, but Brandon actually then had a validation of his pathway. He knew what he wanted to do, and he got into uni doing that. He said that he did that internship program in order for him to have that validation, so he knew. And I think for a lot of young people, a lot of girls, that fear that not getting it right is a big thing. So this program, providing practical experience, authentic, impactful experience for these students, is just amazing. Raceback Aviation High School, for obvious reasons, has partnerships right at their door. So that plane is sitting right behind the foyer that you walk into. So partnerships here again plays a big role in building confidence in girls. And I was very lucky to speak to a range of girls that you can see on the screen there about their program. Now, the partnerships they have are quite unique in that they have a mentoring program. And the mentoring program starts in year 10, and they actually meet this mentor and they're allocated this mentor for the entire component of their senior. Now, to begin with, it's just conversations about interests, about ideas for what subjects to study in year 11 and 12. But then it develops into help for assignments, them connecting and actually seeing their expert in their native habitat, as I would call it, or their workplace, and them learning about what a STEM expert looks like, but having them to ask questions. They then go through with this mentor into year 12 and they get help with applying for university applications, as well as hints and tips for coping for exams and things like that. And these girls that I spoke to, and I spoke to quite a lot of other ones as well, all vouch for the fact that their confidence in a STEM pathway was elevated through this mentorship program. To me, giving girls connection, but also being able to really show them authenticity in the pathways they're connecting with is so very important. Now, a few sneaky ones, I had to put some in from my Schools Plus fellowship that I went to in Singapore. The Crest Secondary School is all hands-on, loads of partnerships, which you can see listed there on the left-hand side, but so practically based that kids, especially girls, just feel so confident in really tackling STEM. And I was very lucky to speak to the girl in the top middle there who wants to be an engineer, and she contributes it to her experience with the partnerships, but also the hands-on and authentic learning that she's been doing. Lastly, another example from around the world, and this one is also in Singapore, the Science and Technology School of Singapore. Now, this, in terms of schools, exemplifies once again hands-on experiential learning, bringing in partnerships and allowing students to make a difference. And this was so very obvious. I would say maybe the thing missing in this school was family involvement. There was certainly a lot of student alumni involvement, but bringing more families into the mix, I think, would bring more girls into this school. Now we're coming to North Queensland, so we've landed in Townsville. It's feeling a little bit warm and humid here, but I want to give you some of my examples so it's not you just saying, oh, you're telling us lots of things. How does that happen in Australia? Not all of the things I'm giving you examples for are actually in school, because my passion, unfortunately, is so big that it goes beyond my classroom and sometimes dominates me rather than the other way around. So firstly, I founded the Townsville STEM Hub in 2014, and this organisation brings together that ecosystem, so business, industry, government, education, in order to amplify STEM in our local area. And we've done that by providing STEM clubs for students that they compete like sport after school, and it's really to satisfy those kids that just want more. Plus, being a regional area, providing students with that extra opportunity allows them to connect, whereas they may not get that connection with STEM at school necessarily based on resourcing or limitations in terms of where they're located. So this allows for those students to actually engage in a pretty exciting program. We've also, over the last 2 years, run a Townsville STEM Fair that showcases all things STEM in our local region. And we've got lots of partnerships there, but the idea is to break down those stereotypes of STEM that exist, and the ideas around science in particular that exist so parents can engage in a very non-confrontational way. I believe as an education professional, it is about engaging the community, the parents, as well as the child, in order that you then are supporting that child in their journey by informing the people that they interact with about the importance of STEM as well. Now, I'm pretty proud of our STEM program at Townsville State High School. We have a lot of hands-on inquiry programs. Every year level, we get students to do at least one inquiry-based link to each science project, but we also tie in STEM projects at the end of it to elevate what we're learning. And the students really love it, but also the teachers do too, because it allows for students to bring in their interests and really have impact on what they're doing. A program that we linked in Year 9 to ecology and natural disasters is our introduction to drones. So we actually do this at the end of the unit of ecology. Now, the reason that we do this is ecology can be quite dry and not all students love it. Plus, we really want to show how technology has actually enhanced biology and the analysis of biological data. So what we actually do is set up scenarios for students to learn about drones, but they actually go through and learn how to program drones and collect data from the drones. I used to do it where I set up a fake car crash and they in a box and they had to fly over and take images and then write a recommendation of what to do from that accident scenario. But we now have changed our scenario to something that happened in February. In the bottom right corner, you would actually be able to see an image of a once in 500 year flood that occurred in Townsville this year. And a lot of students at my school lost their homes, lost all their belongings. Our school was closed for 8 days. And it is a real thing in terms of a natural disaster. And I'm sure many of you possibly might be impacted by natural disasters in terms of the fires right now. And we use drones and natural disasters and show how technology enhances human abilities and analysis, but also helps keep people safe. And we are actually using real drone footage and working with the Townsville City Council around how we use drones in natural disasters. So the students get to extend what they're doing. We have a girls in STEM group called Sisters in STEM, which we do lots of hands-on stuff, which you can see pictures there, lots of challenges, lots of group work and mentoring and linking with people to inspire them. They also enter competitions and develop apps and lots of exciting things. But it is a platform for girls to connect with other girls in a no pressure situation. And a lot of those girls will then say, I really need this. And it might be connecting with the scientist. It might be to be able to share what their concerns are about school. And they can do that in this environment. James Cook University and CSIRO, we have some really strong partnerships through the STEM professionals in schools. I actually think I have a hobby of collecting scientists, which is a good thing, but it really enhances our programs. We use, and there's a little submarine there in the middle, we use a submarine to look at the water quality, but also the animals that live in the water. And the reason that we do that is we have crocodiles and we can't really send our kids in there to find out what's there, but it enhances what we do. So I have about 12 scientists that come out and work with our students around fieldwork to really exemplify how modern science is done, but also to use their expertise and their resources to enhance the learning. They actually contribute as well to that scientific research at James Cook University. So it goes both ways. They've actually improved quite a few of the things the scientists have done through questioning what they do, which to me is a pretty cool partnership. In terms of other partnerships, I am very passionate about breaking down the stereotypes of and ideas of science. That to be a scientist, you're an old guy in a lab coat with big bushy eyebrows and possibly a beard. In reality, not many scientists are that way at all. Plus, we totally shut out women in STEM. So I run a range of conferences and bring partners in to show the reality of breaking down and dissolving those ideas of what STEM professions are. It is so important because so many judgments are done on stereotypes, on pre-formed things that are seen in the media, seen in a picture, and unfortunately that does so much damage, especially to girls engaging with STEM. But I also get the scientists to talk about themselves. So they're seen and perceived as a human, that their path isn't just one direction, made a decision, got to the end, that there's lots of different ways to get from A to B. I also get them to introduce themselves about their why about what drives them, what their research is about, the impact that they make, before they actually say the title of their job. And the reason for that is a lot of students, especially girls, will make a judgment based on the label and not listen to the rest. And this has had profound impacts from girls and boys, but particularly girls, choosing to go to university when originally they weren't even thinking about it. Why? Because they've engaged with people in a real way. Thank you for listening. I'm really honoured to be able to speak to you all today and reach into your homes and schools all across Australia and potentially further afar. I have my Twitter handle there, my email, and the link at the bottom to my Engaging the Future of STEM report. I hope that you have some questions for me, and I hope we can stay in touch. And I wish you all the best, because we deserve every girl to be excited and engaged in STEM and know that we are stronger together. So connect in your ecosystem, connect in your school, and ensure each and every girl is given the opportunity to connect beyond your classroom walls and to see the potential and possibility that each of them has in STEM. Thank you.
Sarah, thank you so much for your generous sharing of so many examples of your experiences, both internationally and in your own school and your own community. Certainly some really strong themes, points around the authenticity of the learning opportunities for your students, whether they be created through the partnerships with community groups, with science community, creating opportunities for mentorship. Particularly interested in your point about highlighting the importance of family involvement and engagement as well. So many takeaways there, Sarah. Thank you. I noticed also in the chat as you were speaking, many others are also commenting and either reaffirming the points that you were making and sharing some of their own experiences. And I thank you for doing that. Please keep that conversation going along the way. It's really helpful, and I think of great interest to us all. Also the questions, thanks very much, Ashley, for popping in there and responding to one of those questions there. And as I mentioned before, we will come back after Ashley's presentation and address any other questions you may have. But look, on that note, very conscious of time, and it's not me you need to hear from. It's my pleasure now to actually welcome Ashley Stewart, who is also a 2019 Commonwealth Bank Teaching Award recipient and Teaching Fellow. Ashley is Head of Mathematics at Newton Moore Senior High School in WA, and today she will really place a spotlight, I guess, on and promote that gender equity and particularly the participation of Aboriginal girls in STEM education and learning. part of Ashley's story, and I shouldn't jump in here, but part of it too is around the strength, building those strong partnerships with community to really enrich those learning opportunities. Ashley, I'm going to hand over to you.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for having me. I hope you can hear me well. I'll turn off my video in a second when I share my slides, but I just wanted to say hi and thanks for having me here. Ooh. Sorry, it's not letting me share my screen. Let me sort this out. Hopefully this works. Oh. Hopefully you can all see this. All right, well, I just wanted to there we go. Yeah, just wanted to talk about promoting gender equity and Aboriginal participation in STEM. And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for Schools Plus for having me to present and speak to you guys today. And if you have any questions, yeah, just put them in the side. I'm definitely not an expert on these matters, but I do like to share what I've done within my school. And I'm going to share a little bit of a process. There's like a 4-step process that I kind of took to get students and community involved in what I do. So I started off with the issues around what we're doing. So women are severely underrepresented in science, technology, engineering, in the STEM, in schools, not only schools, university, and the workforce, with maths and physics engineering being most affected by this inequality. Australian mathematical capability is still under threat. While the overall total number of Year 12 students enrolling in maths has increased, participation is immediate and advanced maths is really low. I don't know if that is true for all schools, but at my school, in regional and remote communities, it's very true about the work that we do. The gender gap also remains really low, with more boys enrolling in the intermediate and particularly the advanced and mathematics courses than the girls are enrolling in. There's a very low participation of girls in advanced maths in particular, especially in remote and regional areas. And that, without those levels of mathematics, it does interfere with the participation of STEM, including with mathematics teachers. The gender disparity in mathematics performance is evident by Year 3. There's a lot of research that has gone into that, but I think the gender gap possibly could have started earlier. A lot of this research comes from the AIMSy Choose Maths report from their surveys in 2016. The average mathematics performance of boys is higher than that of girls, with a gap deepening by Year 5. I don't know if other people's noticed that, especially if you're primary school teachers, but it does affect us. If it's deepening by Year 5 and then they're coming into schools in Year 7, we're starting to see really low participation of girls in high-level mathematics. And we're getting low self-confidence about their mathematics ability, which can affect the gender gap. Low socioeconomic status and geographic location, like I said, can have a big impact on performance as well. We also find it hard to provide well-trained teachers in remote and regional areas in terms of mathematics and STEM. Girls are also less confident in their self-perceived ability in mathematics than boys. There's a lot of research that has gone into that as well. And somebody asked a question about why we're focusing on gender and girls. And the reason is we do have a lot of research to say that girls are less confident than boys in general than in maths and in STEM fields and higher level subjects. So having that focus will help bridge that gap for the girls. So what I have done when I talked about bridging the gap for girls, the first thing I actually looked at was my teachers. I have 7 teaching staff or 8 teaching staff and 4 are female. So right there alone, it helps break that gender stereotype, having such amazing female role models as teachers themselves. And that's what somebody's comment was, is getting your female teachers involved in these things will help be the mentors for the girls. And I find having such amazing female math teachers and role models has helped bridge the gap for some of our girls. A key concern in secondary maths is teaching out of area. I don't know if you guys find that, but in remote and regional areas, we find that a number of teachers are having to teach out of area more often than not. And we're getting primary school teachers and untrained teachers teaching mathematics. I work with my teachers frequently, male, female, to improve teacher quality, teachers' confidence in mathematics, and the mathematics in general that happens within the classroom. We do a lot of mentor teaching and a lot of team teaching to promote the mathematics and making sure that we promote mathematics to girls more effectively. We've actually started, Dr. Cheryl Sorby has a spatial training program. You can find her on highereducation.com, highereducationservices.com. Her spatial training program helps build spatial awareness for all students. Her research has shown that spatial awareness for low socioeconomic students is actually quite low, but girls are even lower than that. So low socioeconomic girls would be much lower than low socioeconomic boys. So trying to bridge the gap looking at spatial training has actually helped us improve our NAPLAN and ULNA results. We get more girls doing ATAR, and our graduation we're having higher number of girls graduating than we would have before. So we're having, the measure of our impact is quite great in terms of normal school data, but in terms of engagement and girls actually liking mathematics, we have those statistics as well. The second thing that I like to look at is getting in early, looking at primary school students. So breaking the stereotype isn't just at the high school level, it's starting at primary schools. Even students in daycare and kindy is ideal. It's not just girls, it's getting boys on board as well. Sorry. It's getting boys on board as well. So introducing them to skills like spatial reasoning, like puzzles. Think3D is a program through the US that you can buy for primary schools, and it's about the construction and deconstruction of shapes, getting them to reason spatially and using video games. I know people say that kids play too many video games, but getting them with a purpose to play the video game to increase spatial awareness is very good for girls, considering not many girls play as many games. More girls play games these days than they used to, but it's actually a really, really good way to improve spatial awareness for girls. Making sure that career pathways aren't gender specific. So making sure that girls know that it can be anything they want and boys know they can be anything they want. Introducing spatial skills to primary schools. So we run sessions at our STEM fairs for primary students using Makey, Think3D, and running sessions at primary schools themselves. So taking ourselves to the primary schools to run spatial reasoning with the students, and they really love it. We run what we like to call our spatial races at lunchtime sometimes, where we have XYZ quadrants and we get kids to design a shape and they have to put it in the right quadrant in the right direction, and they have a lot of fun with it. There's a large amount of evidence to show that girls struggle with spatial reasoning, especially in low socioeconomic environments. I'm going to try to play this video to show you the next step of a little bit about more what I've done. I'm hoping that it works.
Indigenous girls to maths by taking a practical approach. She's winning awards for her results, but says her strongest motivation is producing the new generation of enthusiastic engineers.
When searching for a topic of interest to her young maths students, teacher Ashley Stewart didn't have to look far for inspiration.
When we originally started the project, we said, what is it that kids are into? And they were all on their phones when I was trying to chat to them about it. I was just like, well, I guess I found my answer. They all like their phones.
The students' biggest criticism of their mobiles was that the devices ran flat. So Mrs. Stewart devised a maths and science program centred on building chargers powered by hand and foot.
Like they're actually engaged and owning their own learning. So before they wouldn't, I guess, as much say, oh, have to go to math, it's what I have to do. But now I think they're more into, I'm going to math because I actually like studying it.
Indigenous students are 8 times more likely to fall behind in maths by year 9. But at Newton Moore Senior High, when the program was first trialled, the class swelled from half full to 100% attendance.
Sometimes I even teach my mum stuff because she doesn't really know about this stuff as well. And so I don't know, I tell her all about it, and she gets surprises, and she learns something as well.
The innovative teacher has just been awarded the Australian Mathematical Science Institute's top prize, earning $20,000. That's now helping fund 3 math scholarships at the school.
It just seems like the right time. I'm sort of interested in being an engineer.
Mrs. Stewart hopes the program inspires more female students to study science and maths at university. Jackie Lynch, ABC News, Bunbury.
Indigenous.
So that was just a little bit of an introduction to some of the work that I've done with my girls here. We do projects every single year, and we've started working with the education support school that's on our campus. So a lot of education support schools don't have access to science labs or high levels of technology. So getting all students able to actually access science labs and technology and working as a collaborative group, problem solving, using critical thinking skills is really, really been a big promotion for us. A third thing that I looked at was bringing stereotype breakdowns into high school. So we introduced the spatial skills in high school using Dr. Cheryl Sorby's programs, which has videos and software and hands-on work. And we run it before in year 7 and 9 and before NAPLAN. We run STEM projects within math classes and in term 2 and term 4. We run STEM projects specifically for Aboriginal girls to introduce them to a variety of career opportunities that are available or that could be available to them. This year we ran one on biomedical engineering, and we had a biomedical engineering, we had physios, we had engineers from South 32, and making those partnerships with different universities and engineering companies and doctors and physios just around in the community is really vital in improving students' outlook on what they can and would like to do in their future. The work has helped in affecting change in attitude and behavior towards mathematics and through career awareness. Supporting girls and young women with strong mentoring network and celebrating the achievements of mathematics teachers and students has been phenomenal. We have more students achieving awards. One of the girls in that video, Laura Riley, she actually won an Indigenous CSIRO Maths Award last year. She was amazing, the work she did. She studied bacteria to see where the dirtiest parts of our school were, and then they came up with an idea on how to better clean. It was the drink fountains that were actually the worst, not surprisingly. And they talked to the cleaners about different products to use and how to improve it, and making sure kids wash their hands to improve students being away from school less. And it was an amazing little presentation. They made a video, and it's actually on YouTube. You can probably check that out. I'll give the link for that later. Attendance is really a big barrier for us in our schools and for a lot of schools in regional remote areas. So the STEM projects and spatial training really help bring kids to school. Like the video was saying, we had really poor attendance in that class, and we got every girl there every day. And yes, we did feed them, but it did promote the best in their education. They loved learning, and they still love learning. They still come to maths, they still come to science, they engage in the work. And some of those kids are now doing subs in schools, and they're going to nationals for the work that they've done. So they're doing really, really well. Some of the girls, they do work inspiration. So these girls applied and were selected to participate in an engineering company here, their work inspirations program. And before, we'd never have any girls doing work and work inspirations at an engineering company. And we now have girls participating in so many different varieties of community outreach programs and different things around our area, which is absolutely amazing. And the last thing that we look at when we're trying to bridge the gap for our students is getting involved in mentoring ourselves outside of the school, encouraging my staff to be as part of these as well. So the Choose Maths mentoring and the Innovators Tea Party, putting in place supports for parents and running parents' nights. I made that comment earlier about running parents' nights. And we don't just run parents' nights to come in, tell them what their kids' grades are and send them on their way. We run parents' nights to let the kids show them what they actually are doing in the classroom, show them their activities, show them their work. And the parents really enjoy seeing what their kids are doing. And we used to do that in primary schools, but I think we start getting away from that in high school because we move towards data and grades and results. But parents still want to see what their kids are doing and learn what their kids are doing. And they get really involved when we do activities with them. Supporting teachers in the Southwest region in primary and high schools. We host and run a variety of different professional learning events for everyone. even in my maths department, we run them on occasion on a Thursday just to upskill ourselves. Yeah, I went through that quite quickly because I wanted to make sure we're on time. But if there's any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Thank you all for listening. I know I went through that quite quickly. I just wanted to make sure I got us here on time.
Ashley, thank you so much for sharing so much experience and knowledge in a very accessible way. Again, the synergies between Sarah's presentation around that engagement of parents and the authenticity of the learning, and I guess establishing those partnerships to provide those authentic learning experiences, you've illustrated so well, and so in such an inspiring way. So thank you very much. Ashley and Sarah, and to the rest of the folk online, I'm very conscious of our time, and it's now 5 to 7. But we've had such great conversations. What I'd like to do now is to give 2 questions, one to Ashley and one to Sarah, just to reflections of ones that came through to us in your questions that you sent through. So Ashley, perhaps in fact Sarah, I will kick off with Sarah. One of the questions that came through focused on measuring the impact of the activities that you're doing in the STEM arena. Sarah, I'm just wondering if you can share with us some of the ways which you have been doing that, and certainly what perhaps some of the research that you've been looking at. So can I hand to you?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
And certainly as teachers, we, I guess, have our levels of achievement, and over the time that I've been doing these programs, there's been about a 50% increase in the number of students getting from a C to an A. That's over a 15-year time span. But student engagement is also looked at in terms of attendance, but also buy-in in terms of participation. So students asking, can I do this? Or they give up their lunchtime, or they turn up in the afternoon, or they might ask questions that they haven't asked before. So when you're looking at something in terms of impact, it isn't necessarily, because you're looking at a human, it isn't necessarily clear cut, but certainly holistically you're looking at from the achievement to the attendance to students and their development themselves. And a lot of times I'll get them to self-assess their strengths and weaknesses and their skill development, and a lot of times that's the most powerful thing, is that conversation. And that conversation a lot of times occurs with mentors or partners that they've been involved with externally from the school, in order to really make it something that's valid and viable for them in an authentic way for their lifelong journey in STEM.
Thank you, Sarah. Can I just perhaps bounce now to Ashley? And Ashley, would you like to add on anything to what Sarah's just shared with us? Just on the same question. So it's around measuring impact of your STEM education.
Yeah, we measure it in a lot of different ways. We have the traditional data that we use. We've seen improvements in grades from students across years 7 to 12. It's the participation and love of maths that I've seen as an observation. We don't have kids sitting outside classrooms. Everyone goes in, everyone participates, and there's just this air of love and understanding for each other. Room, and kids are engaged, they're problem solving, they're critically thinking, they're working together, they're collaborating on their work, and you can just feel the passion that everyone has for the work that they do. That's really how I gauge what we're doing, is really having an impact. And we have our community that speaks with us. You know, we have elders that come in, we visit the elders, and the elders have said, these girls are amazing. They're doing amazing work. And when they first started coming in, one of the elders said, well, where are the boys? What, you're building stuff. And I said, no, we don't need them. We can do it on our own. And he just said he was amazed. He was blown away by the work that the girls had done. And that's what we want to see from our community, and the recognition that the community has for what the work that we do. We hear in the community, oh, that's the really good school with the good maths department doing all the work. Yeah, that's how we measure our success.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Ashley. Sarah, I'm going to put you on the spot here, and sorry folks, I'm breaking the rules and just adding an extra question in. Maddie Ewers has just posted a question on chat, and it says, should initiatives be for girls only or all students? Do girl-only events add to the deficit model that females need to be changed themselves? Sarah, would you like to respond to that one?
Well, I
might bounce back to you too, Ash.
I teach at a co-educational school, so it is quite hard to do girls-only events because there's a lot of boys that are just as keen. One thing that I do, and I would say I run activities that are boys and girls involved, but I have roles that each student plays. And the roles rotate, so it allows every student to be a leader. And this sometimes forces girls to a place they're not so comfortable, but it also allows girls to develop those skills of being comfortable as a leader. It also allows boys to take different roles, because a lot of times they will try and dominate activities and rush in and not actually think about anything first. I don't think, I have the Sisters in STEM group for girls that want to come along. I also run an extracurricular science project club, and that has boys and girls. So I don't think there's a best fit model. I would probably say that sometimes girls need a little bit of time to have a safe space, a way of being able to approach where they don't feel that they're failing or being criticised. But I think a lot of times when I teach my kids and I work in groups with boys and girls, I celebrate failure. So I make it a part of the norm of the learning journey. And that really breaks down those walls and builds confidence, but also increases participation of everyone.
Thank you, Sarah. Fantastic. Ashley, can I bounce back to you and ask a different question? And can I say, as we're doing that, Maddie, both Sarah and Ashley have also responded to a similar question that Sarah's just responded to in the summary. So when we circulate that, you'll see some other information there, and also some links as well, which I hope will be helpful. Ashley, a quick question. How do I start running a STEM club at the school or after school for the community?
Yeah, you have to start, you really have to start with your teachers. You have to get teachers on board, willing to run it. Because if you don't have people that are passionate about running it and you have them there because that's their duty after school, it's not going to work. So you need to get passionate teachers. That's the first thing. You need to get your administrative staff on board, willing to let you explore new options. Once you get staff and admin on board, you start selling it to students. Start doing projects in classes, getting them to choose the work that they want to do, getting them involved. Like with the girls project that I did, one of the first ones about their phones, it's what they were interested in the most. They wanted to charge their phones. They wanted to actually put solar panels all over the school with phone chargers so that kids could charge their phones. So you have to take an activity that the kids want to do with teachers who want to do it. Once you have buy-in from the teachers and the kids, it'll start feeding into their parents. Because when a kid takes a project home and says, I need to build this amplifying device out of random material, Dad, I need your help, they start working on it together. And it builds a bond with parents that sometimes they'd never had in the first place. Parents start wanting to come in with their kids. Community members, you start inviting them. They don't often just walk in the door, but if you start inviting them, putting on food, getting parents to come in and providing a plate when they come in food for the projects that we do, and getting mentors out of the community, working with engineering companies, working with doctors, anybody in your community that's willing to come in and volunteer is the best way to start getting STEM clubs, STEM projects, anything going involving your community.
Thank you, Sarah. Sorry, Ashley. Thank you. Sarah, would you like to, just as we wrap up this final question, just add one other point to Ashley's response there that you think might be of interest to the group?
In terms of STEM clubs, I totally agree with what Ashley said. I think predominantly the thing that needs to resound is authenticity to the student. So it needs to link with their interests and what they want to do and help them to make a difference and go beyond what they're learning already. I think that and enabling students to be able to be empowered through their interests, whether it's the best way to remove sticky stuff off the bandaging or strapping from a basketball ankle, to making a sensor system that monitors the water health in a creek. Allowing students to have choice and allowing students to make a difference in their world is so important. And if you do that, you'll have a very high subscription of students, because it's a way that they can actually make a difference in their world, which is important.
Look, Sarah, thank you, and Ashley, thank you. Sarah, your last words, what a perfect segue into wrapping up our session today. And thank you both for the difference that you both make to the students that you reach each day and have done over the years, and also I guess sharing your knowledge with us today is certainly making a difference as well. So an enormous thank you. One of the comments that came through on chat was from Maddie, actually, wish we could clap, great presentation. So I'm echoing those sentiments right now. I wish we could clap to say thank you. I guess as we conclude today's seminar, we hope it's been useful for you all, and certainly our work here at Australian Schools Plus is about supporting the work in schools and making a difference for the learning opportunities of young people, and particularly those that are in communities where some form of disadvantage may exist. So again, thank you for the work that you do, and we are really pleased to be here to be able to support that. I guess as we do start to wrap up, a couple of a little advertisement here. We are hosting a webinar next week. You'll see there around fundraising of fundamentals. Certainly invite you to have a look on our website for more information about this particular webinar, and also just about our work in general. And certainly invite you also to follow us on Twitter and learn what we're doing. And the contact details you'll see there on the screen for those of you who may or may not be familiar with us. You may also, Yvonne's just prompted me actually. Thank you, Yvonne. We haven't got it up there, but we will definitely include them on the Q&A that will circulate to you. I encourage you to follow both Ashley and Sarah on Twitter. It's at ashstew13 or 13 and at Chapman Sarah, SAR. But look, we will include that information, as I say, on the Q&A, and certainly two members of our teaching profession that are incredibly worthwhile to follow there. I think that probably brings us to an end. Again, thank you all for your participation, and thank you all for your participation and for your questions, your engagement throughout the webinar. It's been a privilege to have you all here, and a big thank you again to Sarah and Ashley. If you do have any questions, please follow up with us. You've got our email there, and thank you very much. Have a great evening, everyone.